Hey, Motorman here. If you don't know me, I'm a motor officer instructor. I'm the original guy who started teaching the police motor officer techniques to you, the average rider. Been doing it for over 20 years. And I know there's going to be some experts out there, some I call them YouTube commandos, saying, you got off on the wrong side. Well, I got off on the correct side. If you get off the motorcycle on the other side, most of the time you're stepping into traffic. That's one of the reasons we get off on the right side and we get on the right side. To get on the right side, you just put your foot up here and you lift your leg. It's much easier to get your leg over the tour pack or the sissy bar. Turn the handlebars, nothing to it. You can even have your passenger get on the same way. They get on to this seat right here, the rider's seat, and then they slide up. And it's much easier than trying to squeeze in between two people. So if you think you know what you're doing and you're some kind of expert and I'm doing the wrong thing, well, the cop's been doing it for over 70 years. And police motor officers are the top 2% of riders in America. By the way, before I go any further, if you like these videos, please hit the subscribe, hit that little bell so you'll be notified every time I come out with a new video. And I hope you hit me a thumbs up button as well. Now, I'm going to go over quite a few tips today. And as usual, if you don't like my tips, I have a money-back guarantee on my YouTube video. So you just put your name and address and phone number in the comment section and your check will be in the mail to you. Complete refund for anything you see here on YouTube. Now, first thing I'm going to start with, what we have here, I'm parked in the middle of what we call an intersection. Now, the intersection, or four-leaf clover, is an excellent exercise to set up. Right now, I think I've used 20 markers or cones. You don't even need that many. You could just put them at the ends. You could get by, in other words, with about 12 cones. I'm just eyeing this up. I'm going by the lines in the parking lot because I don't care where you go. In America anyway, the parking lot spaces, 2 of them, is 18 feet. So you make it as easy or as difficult as you want. If you use 3 parking spaces, that's the easiest to set up, and that's 27 feet. I suggest if you never tried these techniques, if you don't know how to use your head and eyes and the friction zone and the rear brake, start at least with 27 feet or larger. I've got this set up probably about 19 or 20 feet wide. Each of the legs is about, I don't know, 24 feet or so. But I'm going to show you the normal way of going through the intersection and then what you can do also inside the intersection using those 3 techniques. Now remember, I'm going to be using my head and eyes. The most important thing, I'm going to be turning my head and looking only where I want to go. I'll be in the friction zone. I'm going to have a little bit of pressure on the rear brake. Now, I've heard a lot of people lately been saying, my father who taught me how to drive a stick shift car said never ride the clutch. Well, cars have what's called a dry clutch. Motorcycles, 99% of them, have a wet clutch. In other words, it's cooled by oil. So it was designed to allow you to slip that clutch and use the friction zone. It's not going to hurt anything. And when you're practicing, you practice for 5 or 10 minutes, let the bike cool down for 5 or 10 minutes, and the clutch will last forever. This is not brain surgery, folks. And even if you remember when your father taught you to drive, when you went to park your car, you had to ride that clutch in order to back into the parking space, because if you let the clutch out all the way and stepped on the gas, you slam into the curb or the car that you were trying to park in front of. So I don't care what your father told you. I'm telling you, motor officers have been doing this for like 70 years. You got to, if you want to control that motorcycle at low speeds, you must use the friction zone and a little bit of pressure on the rear brake. The better you get, the less rear brake you're going to need. Eventually you could get to where you could just use the clutch and throttle and no rear brake at all when you're practicing. On the street, if you're going to make a U-turn, always use that rear brake. It's a little bit of a helper. So I'm going to go through this. First, I'll show you the normal way of going through the intersection, and then I'll show you some variations. Okay, that was the normal way we go through the intersection. Now I'm going to show you what you can do in some of the legs. What I'm going to start with is a circle and a half in a couple of the legs. We don't do circles on the street, but it's very useful because it forces you to use your head and eyes, and that is the most important of the 3 techniques you could learn, is to look where you want to put that motorcycle. So I'm going to start with this far leg. I'm going to do a circle and a half. Now I'm going to do a figure 8. I'm going to do that in this leg right here. The figure 8 also, you're not going to do this on the street, but it forces you to use your head and eyes, and you have to learn that. You got to also learn the friction zone, head and eyes, and a little bit of pressure on the rear brake. Okay, I've got a camera now also mounted showing my hand and what it's doing with the clutch. So I took the glove off so that you could see exactly what my hand is doing. I did this once in another video, and I also included this in my Ride Like a Pro video. It really doesn't mean much, but in the last video where I showed this, people seem to really like that. But I'm going to tell you right now, where my clutch is grabbing is going to be in a different spot from your clutch. In fact, it differs from motorcycle to motorcycle. But I'm going to show you what I'm doing with my hand, and basically what I'm doing is I let the clutch out so the bike starts to move. I bring the throttle up a bit, and I stay in that sweet spot of the friction zone. I never let the clutch out all the way, because if I do that, the slightest movement of the throttle is going to cause the bike to leap straight ahead, and I won't be in control. So I'll stay in that sweet spot, and I might manipulate the clutch in and out within maybe a quarter of an inch within the friction zone. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. I'm going to be doing a figure 8 over here. And, you know, figure 8, like I said, you could start at any size you want. You could use 2 circles interconnected in the center at 30 feet to start, or 34 feet. And this is probably about 20 feet what I'm going to have over here. Always looking where I want to put that front tire. I look at mainly what I call a crossover point. That's about where the middle of the figure 8 is. So every time I pass that crossover point, I turn my head and eyes as soon as possible and try to find it again. Now, if I'm doing the slow race, I'm going to have her film me doing this, and you're going to see my hand. I'm going to have the clutch pretty much in one sweet spot, just a little bit of pressure on the rear brake. And by the way, the slow race is the best way to get the hang of using that friction zone. Right now I'm going, probably 3 miles an hour. I'm barely touching that rear brake because I really don't need it. But when you're learning this, it's best to use that rear brake. I'm going to go through the whole intersection right now, and you'll be seeing my hand as I do it. Here's my wife Donna. She's 5'3", weighs 128 pounds, and I must mention that when we first got married, she's a slim trim 125. She's ballooned up to 128, but it doesn't matter. The size and strength of the rider has no bearing on their abilities. It's technique. Even little bitty girls can ride 850 pounds. In fact, this bike, I took it over to the dump here, the local dump. They got a scale there, and I weighed it with all the stuff on it. It's actually 910 pounds. That's the Electric Glide police bike, same as the civilian version, except it comes with the 114 motor and the police wiring. And the tour pack on the back is the same size as the Harley tour pack, but it's from Advan Black. I'll put a link down there. The quality is just as good as the Harley, and it's about half the price, maybe even a little less than half. As you can see, the techniques work even for little bitty girls. Head knives, friction zone, a little bit of pressure on the rear brake. The bike is not lowered. The last thing you want to do is lower the motorcycle, because that limits your lean angle and the bike turns by leaning. The further you lean the motorcycle, the tighter the turn you can make. She's going to reverse it now. For you folks out there who have a problem making the right-hand U-turns, set up the intersection and run it backwards so that all your U-turns are to the right. After about 8 or 9 times through, you'll realize that you could turn just as well in both directions. Here's another angle. She's not at the lean limit, but she's pretty close. Lean limits on this bike is 32 degrees. She doesn't know that. She doesn't care. You hear those floorboards start to scrape, you know you're getting pretty close to the lean angle. You could scrape the boards here under controlled conditions in a flat parking lot, but you want to avoid that out on the road. Because out on the road, if you hit a little bump and you're scraping those boards, you're taking the chance of levering a tire off the ground. That's the last thing you want to do. Lever that tire off the ground and you are going down. It looks pretty when you're doing it right. I'm going to have her demonstrate also a single U-turn. I'm going to have you demonstrate a single U-turn. So do it right down there with the dip.
All right, you ready?
Yep. Here's a single U-turn. We're going to do a serious dip, an aggressive dip. Dip into that curb side, snap the head knives, and nothing to it. Don't have to use the dip, but it makes it easier. Why not do it the easy way? So guys, if you're, smaller stature, as you can see, a little bitty girl can do it. Why can't you? It's just technique. Get yourself the Shortcuts video and Surviving the Mean Streets for 20 bucks. The best money you'll ever spend on your bike, but you gotta call. It's not on the website. On the website, we have it on USB. We have the actual Ride Like a Pro and Surviving the Mean Streets. That's a total of 3 hours of instructional video for $34.95. That includes shipping, sent right to your door. Till next week. By the way, everything I'm showing you here is on this video. Shortcuts to Riding Like a Pro. Got a close-up of that, camera girl?
Got it.
And also, the Surviving the Mean Streets 2 video, that shows you why you learn particular exercises. We show you real-world situations and how they relate to situations out on the street. Most of this was filmed on the street. So the Shortcuts video is going to show you how to set up this stuff with a minimal amount of markers. You don't even have to have any markers at all. Just use the lines of the parking lot. The 2 of these for 20 bucks plus shipping. You can't beat that. There's nothing that you could buy for your motorcycle for 20 bucks that's going to help you like these 2 videos will. The idea is to practice. Watch the video, go out and practice, and we even give you a practice guide. It shows you how to set every single thing up. We also have on USB the new Ride Like a Pro video that runs 2 hours long. That shows you everything from Shortcuts and also the actual motor officer course plus Surviving the Mean Streets. That's $34.95. This is on the website. This 2 for 20 special is not on the website. You must call 1-866-868-7433 to get this deal. Please call that phone number between 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Don't be calling me from Biafra at 4 in the morning. Nobody's going to answer the phone. 9 to 9 Eastern Standard Time, just about 7 days a week. Sometimes on Sunday we're teaching a class. We won't be there until about 2 or 3 in the afternoon, but we will be there till 9 at night.